In this module, I'll cover the rest of the Heteroptera, the true bugs. There are a lot of lace bugs that can attack a wide range of deciduous and evergreen broadleaf plants. They have atypical bug shapes with their wings and the rest of the exoskeleton with pronounced reticulations that look a bit like lace, hence their name. Most feed from leaf undersurfaces, and they can damage a lot of plant cells during the summer months. We'll also cover the leaf-footed bugs that are large and impressive bugs, but they cause little damage. There are also some stink bugs that commonly feed on landscape plants, but again, they rarely cause significant damage. Finally, I've decided to throw in the chinch bugs, which only attack lawn grasses, but lawns are part of our landscapes too. Lace bugs are one of the exceptions to the normal true bug body configuration. Lace bug adults have their wings modified with reticulated veins, and the body often has pronodal lateral extensions that are also reticulated. The hawthorn lace bug is one of the most common species as it infests hawthorns, cotoneasters, pyracantha, and flowering quince in our urban landscapes. Lace bugs are divided into two biological groups: those that attack deciduous plants and those that attack broadleaf evergreens. The species that attack deciduous plants overwinter as adults, while those that attack evergreens overwinter as eggs inserted into leaf tissues. Hawthorn lace bug adults overwinter in the leaf litter under and around their host plants. In the spring, as new leaves emerge, the successfully overwintered adults move back to the leaf undersurfaces and begin to feed. Lace bugs don't macerate patches of leaf tissues like the plant bugs, but they extract the contents out of several mesophyll cells. This causes a white or yellow speckle on the leaf surface. Extensive feeding can result in the leaves having an overall blanched look, but when viewed closely, the blanching consists of hundreds of small speckles. Female hawthorn lace bugs insert elongate eggs upright in leaf tissues in small patches, and each egg is coated with some tar spot material. These eggs hatch, and the young nymphs immediately begin feeding and producing shiny tar spots. The adults live for several weeks, and each female can produce several patches of eggs. The nymphs are usually oval in shape and have distinctive spines that arise from the sides of each abdominal segment. The nymphs tend to stay together in masses on host leaf undersurfaces. This results in patches of yellow speckles on the upper leaf surface. The nymphs go through 5 instars, with wing pads being most evident in the last 2 instars. Development usually takes 5 to 7 weeks, depending on the temperature. In southern states, 3 or more generations occur, and in the northern states, 1 to 2 generations are the norm. The sycamore lace bug is found everywhere sycamore and London plaid trees are grown. The close-up image of the adult nicely shows the reticulated exoskeleton surface. Like the hawthorn lace bug, the sycamore lace bugs overwinter in leaf litter, but since sycamores have flaky bark, many of the adults can be found under these flakes. In the spring, when the new leaves are about half expanded, the adults creep to the newly expanded leaves and feed. Males and females seem to pair up, with 1 or more pairs found per leaf. Females soon begin to insert eggs into the leaf tissues in patches, and a single female can lay over 300 eggs during her entire lifespan. The first 3 instars tend to stay clustered on the undersurfaces of leaves, but 4th and 5th instars may seek new leaves without damage. The nymphs complete their development in about 45 days, and several generations can occur each summer. The adults are quite able to fly, and often do so in late summer. One species of lace bug is most common on northern and red white oaks, but white oaks are the preferred host. In the southern states, another species commonly attacks live oaks. Again, the northern species overwinters as adults in bark crevices and in leaf litter. Once the leaves have fully expanded, the adults feed, pair up, and females insert patches of eggs in the leaf tissues, usually along leaf veins. Feeding damage generally appears as patches of yellow speckles on the upper surface of the leaves. Extensive feeding in an area can kill the tissues, which turns brown. It appears that there may be 2 generations in most summers, but this species is fairly susceptible to fungal diseases that can attack nymphs when there is hot and humid or wet conditions. The Chrysanthemum Lace Bug is quite different in its habits. While most lace bugs live and feed on leaf undersurfaces, the Chrysanthemum Lace Bug is normally found on the upper leaf surface. As the name implies, this species attacks the leaves of chrysanthemums, other perennial composite species, and goldenrod. The feeding by the adults and nymphs produces patches of white spots or flecking on the leaves, and their tar spots are also easily visible. The damage from this pest looks a lot like flea hopper feeding, and the flea hoppers also produce tar spots. The adults overwinter in the leaf litter around host plants, and the adults are usually first seen in May. It appears that there are 2 or more generations during the summer. The Basswood Lace Bug prefers American basswood, but it also can be found on other linden trees used in urban landscapes. The adults are a bit larger than the Hawthorn and Sycamore Lace Bugs, and they have a distinctive dark pronodal patch. The ends of the wings are broader than the rest of the body. As with most of the lace bugs attacking deciduous trees, the basswood lace bugs overwinter in leaf litter near their host trees, and the adults move to the leaves once the leaves have expanded. Their feeding from the leaf undersurfaces produces a lot of randomly spaced flecking that can look a little bit like spider mite damage. Adults often occur in small groups, and females insert eggs in leaf vein tissues. The nymphs are oval and very spiny. The nymphs take 5 to 6 weeks to develop, and it appears that 2 generations occur each season. The Azalea Lace Bug is our most common species attacking broadleaf evergreen azaleas. Similar species attack rhododendron and andromeda. The Azalea Lace Bug is a native of Japan, where azaleas are native plants, but it is now found around the world where azaleas are cultivated. This pest overwinters as eggs inserted into the veins of leaves. These appear as a row of dark spots, each with the egg micropyle sticking through the tar spot material. The nymphs hatch in warmer spring weather, and the spiny nymphs tend to cluster together on leaf undersurfaces. The nymphs develop fairly rapidly and can finish their development in 23 days at 70 degrees and as little as 11 days at 90 degrees. There can be 2 to 4 generations per summer, depending on the length of warm temperatures. The leaf-footed bugs are usually larger bugs with their elongated bodies easily showing the triangle and rhombus shapes I have mentioned before. Most species have the hind leg elongated, but not for jumping. The tibial segment usually bears a flap of exoskeleton that is somewhat leaf-shaped, hence their common name. However, several species in this family, like the common squash bug, have the leaf flap missing. The most commonly encountered species in northern North America is the western Conifer Seed Bug. This insect is slightly more than an inch in length and has mottled brown and white markings on the dorsal surface. The nymphs feed on pine and spruce seed cones. Most leaf-footed bugs are missed in our urban landscapes, but the western Conifer Seed Bug overwinters as adults, and these often try to enter homes in the fall to find places to hide for the winter. Their large size causes considerable concern, but they are not known to bite. The stink bugs come in 2 types, those that feed on plants and those that are predators. Unfortunately, the beneficial predators can look a lot like some of the plant-feeding species. The green stink bug is a large and impressive species that feeds on a wide array of plants. It can be a major pest of soybeans and corn, where the nymphs and adults feed on developing beans or the grains. This causes the seeds to wither or be greatly distorted. They can do the same thing to developing fruits. and this damage is often called cat facing. In the landscape, green stink bug feeding is usually not noticed, but the brightly colored nymphs and adults can cause concern. Many stink bugs lay eggs that have a ring of spines around the top of each egg. Most stink bugs overwinter as adults, and the overwintered adults can live for many months, laying batches of eggs on suitable hosts. The brown marmorated stink bug is an invasive that has spread across most of North America. It has a mottled brown color with distinctive white darts on each side of the abdominal segments, and the antennae are uniquely banded with white. This bug is not only a major fruit, vegetable, and field crop pest, but the adults are nuisance invaders of homes and buildings in the fall. Overwintered adults feed on plant juices in the spring and soon begin to lay batches of eggs on favored host plants. In the urban landscapes, this pest often lays eggs on plants that develop seed pods after blooming, as the nymphs relish feeding on seed pods. The nymphs are gray and cream-colored, and they have white bands on their legs and antennae. The nymphs take about 5 to 6 weeks to complete their 5 nymphal instars. In some locations, there is a partial second generation in the summer, but only mature adults can overwinter. I often see stink bugs on plants, especially on flowers. Unless you are really knowledgeable, it's difficult to tell which ones are potential plant pests and which ones are really beneficials. In this image, there is a small black stink bug that doesn't have a common name. Supposedly, it's a predator of other insects, but this one was taking juices from the bases of the flowers. This is a well-known phenomenon. When predatory bugs can't find sufficient prey, they will often take liquids from plants to help them survive until they can find prey. On the other hand, the twice-stabbed stink bug is a common seed feeder, so finding them on flower stalks is to be expected. However, the species looks very similar to the two-spotted stink bug, which is a beneficial predator. Bottom line, most of our stink bugs on our landscape plants are beneficial, and those that aren't don't cause sufficient damage to warrant management. Ebony bugs look a lot like small, shiny stink bugs. If you look closely, they lack the distinctive rhombus pattern where the four-wing membranes cross. These are very common insects, especially in flower gardens where they normally are extracting juices out of the flower bases and stems. They can damage seed production, but this usually isn't important in the general urban landscape. I now want to turn my attention to an important juice-sucking bug that attacks grasses, the chinch bugs. We have about 4 species of chinch bugs in North America that can be found damaging managed turf. But the hairy chinch bug and southern chinch bugs are the most commonly encountered species. These bugs used to be in the Lygeid leaf bug family, but they are now in their own family, the Blissidie. All of these are obligate grass feeders, with many of the species attacking native bunch grasses. The adults of all species appear black with white wings. If you look closely, the wings usually have a black dot about halfway down the outer margin. Chinch bug nymphs start out red-orange in color and eventually obtain the dark gray to black color as they develop. They can kill turf by clogging the vascular bundles as part of their feeding method. The hairy chinch bug is found from Canada down to Tennessee and westward to Iowa and Nebraska. It prefers Kentucky bluegrasses and will also attack perennial ryegrasses and fine fescues if these don't contain fungal endophytes. Fungal endophytes are symbionts that produce insect toxins. Hairy chinch bug damage to home lawns looks like drought stress or possibly a disease problem. In fact, in this image, the homeowner stated she had just had her lawn treated with a fungicide because her lawn care technician said that it had leaf spot disease and that was melting out. I think she was going to switch companies after I showed her the chinch bugs. All chinch bugs have a classic bug-style life cycle with egg, nymph, and adult stages. The nymphs undergo 5 instars. As you can see, the first 3 instars are orange with a white band across their backs. The fourth and fifth instars are more purple to gray in color. The adults can also take on two forms, a fully winged form called alate and a short winged form which is called brachypterous. In general, the first summer generation of adults are predominantly brachypterous, and the second generation has mainly alates. This makes sense as the second generation adults need to find overwintering sites or new turf to infest. Over most of its range, the hairy chinch bug has two distinct generations. It overwinters as adults, which tend to hide in bunch grass clumps. In the spring, the adults feed, mate, and females lay eggs around the bases of host plants. The nymphs take 4 to 6 weeks to complete their development, and new adults begin to show up in mid to late July. These adults mate and lay eggs for a second generation, which can be a bit more spread out in its development. Any nymph that hasn't completed development by the first freeze dies. In Canada, the hairy chinch bug only undergoes one generation per summer. The southern chinch bug is found where warm season grasses are cultivated. While it can feed on Bermuda grass and zoysia grass, its favorite host is St. Augustine grass. Populations can reach incredible numbers by midsummer, which can kill patches of the turf, especially where irrigation is poor or not being used. The damage often looks like drought stress, and many homeowners just think that their irrigations aren't working the way that they should. The southern chinch bug regularly has 3 to 5 generations in a summer, depending on the length of the warm weather. This chinch bug is difficult to manage as it has overcome several cultivars of St. Augustine grasses that were developed to have resistance to this pest. And it often develops resistance to insecticides that are regularly used repeatedly to try to control it.